On April 24th, 2013, an 8-story building called Rana Plaza collapsed in just 3 minutes outside Dhaka, Bangladesh, killing 1,134 people and injuring over 2,500 more. That death toll is almost 8 times higher than the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of 1911, the disaster most of us learned about in school. And yet, most people have never heard of Rana Plaza. There's a very good chance the clothes you're wearing right now connect you to it. Rana Plaza was built in 2006 on land that used to be a marshy swamp with a small pond, soil that was completely unsuitable for a large structure. Instead of removing the unstable ground and replacing it with something that could actually bear weight, construction crews filled in the swamp with rubbish and trash. Literal garbage became the foundation. The building was originally designed as a 4 or 5-story shopping mall, but the owner, a politically connected man named Sohel Rana, had bigger plans. Through bribes and extortion, he added floor after floor without permits, eventually reaching 8 stories, with a 9th under construction. The building's own architect later said it was planned for shops and offices, never for factories. 5 garment factories moved in anyway, employing around 5,000 workers. One investigation found that cooking oil cans had been used as building materials to fill in wall cavities. This was never a real building. It was a death trap dressed up as one. The day before the collapse, April 23rd, large cracks appeared in the structure. A television crew came out and filmed them. An engineer inspected the building and declared it unsafe. Workers were evacuated. The shops on the ground floor closed. The bank inside closed. But later that same day, Sohel Rana went on camera and told the media the building was safe and instructed workers to return the following morning. And they did. Over 3,600 garment workers, 80% of them women, most of them 20 years old or younger, walked into that building on the morning of April 24th. Many didn't want to go. Witnesses described thugs hired by Rana beating the most reluctant workers to force them inside. Management at one of the factories, Ether Techs, threatened to withhold an entire month's wages from anyone who refused to come back. These workers were earning $37 a month. They couldn't afford to lose a single paycheck. At 8:54 a.m., loud vibrations erupted on the top floors. Workers rushed toward the exits. They had less than 60 seconds. At 8:57 a.m., the entire building pancaked, leaving only the ground floor intact. Police and fire crews didn't arrive for 10 to 15 minutes, and when they did, they found a mountain of concrete and twisted steel with thousands of people trapped inside. The rescue effort lasted 19 days. 19 days of digging through rubble, pulling out the living and the dead. Some survivors had no choice but to amputate their own limbs to free themselves from the wreckage. One woman, identified only as Shahina, was found alive 4 days after the collapse. Rescuers were cutting through debris to reach her when their equipment accidentally sparked a fire. She died during the rescue attempt. And then there was Reshma Begum. Reshma was buried for 16 days and 7 hours in a pocket of space about 30 feet long and 15 feet wide during one of the hottest times of the year in Bangladesh, with temperatures reaching 35 degrees Celsius and 80% humidity. Her hair became trapped under rubble, and she used sharp objects she found nearby to cut it free. She survived on dried food scattered around her for 15 days. The last 2 days she had nothing but water, and she rationed every sip. When rescuers finally pulled her out on May 10th, she told reporters, "No one heard me. It was so bad for me. I never dreamed I'd see the daylight again." Reshma never went back to garment work. Today she works in the housekeeping section of the Westin Dhaka, a 5-star hotel, earning around 35,000 taka a month. a completely different life from the one that almost killed her. So who were these workers making clothes for? That's the part of the story that should make all of us uncomfortable. At least 29 global brands had recent or current orders with factories inside Rana Plaza. Benetton, Primark, Walmart, Mango, The Children's Place, Joe Fresh, Zara's parent company Inditex. Labels from these brands were pulled from the rubble. Order forms were recovered from the wreckage. And when the time came to compensate the victims, most of these companies looked the other way. Of the 29 brands identified, only 9 showed up to meetings about a compensation proposal. Walmart refused to sign. Carrefour refused. Benetton initially denied any connection to Rana Plaza at all, despite photographs of their labels sitting in the debris, and only acknowledged the link after the evidence became undeniable. It took over 2 years for the Rana Plaza Donors Trust Fund to reach $30 million, 2 years for victims' families to receive compensation for lives lost. Primark became the single largest contributor at $12.4 million, but the total payout came to roughly $18.5 million for 1,134 deaths and 2,500 injuries. Do the math on that and tell me it feels like justice. Sohel Rana was arrested 4 days after the collapse, caught trying to flee across the border into India. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for corruption. 3 years for a building that killed over 1,000 people. A murder case was filed with 41 defendants, and as of 2025, 12 years later, that trial is still ongoing. Out of 594 witnesses, only 94 have testified. Of the 41 accused, 30 are out on bail, 7 are on the run, and 3 have died. Only Sohel Rana remains behind bars, with his lawyers continuing to push for bail. Survivor Mahmoudul Hassan Haridoy put it plainly. It's extremely frustrating that we have not got justice even 9 years after the incident that left so many people dead. Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus called the collapse a symbol of Bangladesh's failure as a nation, warning that if the country didn't face up to the cracks in its systems, the entire nation would get lost in the debris. Some things did change. The Accord on Fire and Building Safety was signed by 220 companies. Over 97,000 hazards at Bangladeshi factories were identified and eliminated. More than 1,200 trade unions were registered in the garment sector, and the minimum wage was raised. But in 2025, that minimum wage sits at about $113 a month. The estimated living wage is $460. 91% of Bangladeshi garment workers still struggle to afford enough food, and 79% of brands that pledged to adjust for the wage increase never followed through. Bangladesh remains the second largest apparel exporter in the world, a $42.6 billion industry employing 4 million workers. The clothes keep coming, the prices stay low, and the people who make them are still going hungry. We remember the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire because it happened in New York, because it led to sweeping labor reforms, because it became a turning point. Rana Plaza happened on the other side of the world, in a country most Western consumers never think about, producing the fast fashion that fills our closets. There's no dramatic resolution, no satisfying ending where justice was served and the system was fixed. And maybe that's exactly why we don't talk about it, because the story of Rana Plaza isn't really about a building that collapsed in Bangladesh. It's about who that building was serving and whether we've changed anything at all since the day it fell.